everybody, welcome to What the Flick. Meredith, Alonso, The Americans, Season 5, Episode 6, Crossbreed. Yeah, you know, I think we're getting into these sort of interesting areas about, like, what do you feel guilty about?
Yeah, it's the whole, we got to see a scene with the psychologist, we get to see, oh God, the thing with Gabriel.
Oh, poor Gabriel.
I'm not ready for this.
I know. It's like it's interesting though. Like we're so conditioned after years of especially like characters like 007 who are so, you know, except for like on Her Majesty's Secret Service, they never. Well, okay, I take it back. Pre-Daniel Craig 007, emotionless and you know like borderline sociopathic. You know, and here. You know, I think a lot of other spy things would have been like, oops, we killed the wrong guy. Oh, well, you know, can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs.
Yeah, they just, you know, or they just don't even address it other than like, oh, well. But yeah, this was great. And I mean, even to see that Elizabeth has some sort of remorse over it, not as much as I would think Philip or even Gabriel does.
Right.
But the weight on Gabriel's shoulder having had to lie to them.
Yes.
You know, and I think like it's one of those things, it's like, I know we're doing good for our country, but we still have to do bad things.
Now, I was just, in watching Misha getting sent back to.
I guess he went back.
To wherever, poor Sap.
What was the point of the previous 4 episodes?
Because he's making the effort, you know. He's the pokey little puppy. Does he knows the travel agency part, but does he know that Philip's a spy or not?
I would assume yes, because of the talk that Gabriel and
that's what finally occurs. Like, wait a minute. So he must realize that this shadowy figure is telling him, sorry, you can't. It would be dangerous. That there's more. That this isn't just like he didn't come from the travel agency company.
Yeah, and I'm assuming he knew his mom was a spy as well. So.
Well, Elizabeth's not his mom though.
No, his actual.
Oh, his mom is right. Yes, right.
Yeah.
So we've got that happening. You know, another great Paige Elizabeth conversation about what we can talk about and what we can't talk about, and you know, the idea of. You know, there was such a long time in this country where you could not have 2 Russian people talking about Marx on television or in the movies without it just being like this, you know, moment, you know. And here it's just sort of like, well, you know, that's kind of what we believe in, and you know, okay, it doesn't all work, but yeah,
we try. We're all in it together.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know.
Meanwhile, of course, you've got Oleg, you know, like roughing up food distributors. So I don't know how in it together we all are, but whatever.
Well, and I think that's the irony of that statement right there, is especially because Elizabeth has been gone so long from Russia and Moscow.
Oh, sure,
that she doesn't see that it's in many ways, you know, the same shit, different day, like in America. You know, there's still government agencies and people who are trying to get the best, you know, one up over someone else.
People are gaming the system.
Yeah, I mean, Elizabeth lives in this idealized world of what Russia and communism is.
Right.
And also because she didn't seem, you know, to have the same harsh backstory as many other.
Right, yeah, I mean, she was sort of like, wasn't she a gymnast or something? Like, yeah, she did not come from as hard scrabble a background as Philip. And I think part of the thing is, you know, you're away for so long, you have no idea what the day-to-day life is, but also part of the process of staying on mission is just having to believe that, like, you know, for the things that I'm doing to be, you know, legitimate and excusable, there has to be this glorious, you know, country that I'm doing it for.
Which is interesting, given the whole like lack of religious belief in Marxism, and yet, you know, it's based on faith. She has to have faith in her government. So I thought that was a really interesting parallel, especially where Paige brought up like, well, the best day of my life was being baptized. Right. So there is a parallel to blind faith. Sure, the fervor of you know, sort of we're seeing it now in our own government, the fervor of nationalism, you know, that when people get all super excited about that. You know, the show is kind of, it's suggested it before, but I think this week we got the strongest sort of, you know, statement that Henry really sees Stan as a father. Yes. And obviously that's gonna really muddy the waters as the show comes to a conclusion next season, because, you know, Paige was sort of swayed in a way and could be talked into at least keeping her mouth shut and understanding what's going on, and maybe even like now obviously she's meeting Gabriel, so you know, who knows where that's gonna go. But
But yeah, Henry does not have that relationship with Philip and Elizabeth. He does have this relationship with Stan.
And Henry is American through and through.
Oh, totally.
He was born in America. He believes in America. His father figure works for the government. Yeah, that's and just like their friendship is so intriguing to me because I feel like as a child whose parents worked a lot, I became like friends with their friends. So I didn't have a lot of friends my age when I was Henry's age. Most of them were like the adult friends of the family, and we talk about real life things.
Sure.
And I confided in them more than I sometimes did my own family, which, so watching that parallel play out, especially in a similar time era, it's for me, I'm like, yeah, no, and it was one of the more realistic portrayals of like the precarious child that I've ever seen. Because no, this is how it is. Precocious, thank you.
Oh, they're precarious too. But.
Yeah, but precocious, thank you.
But and of course Stan does have his own teenage son that he should be having these conversations with. But the divorce, and obviously that's kind of muddied the water. So this is sort of his do-over, with Henry. But so that's a relationship to like put a pin in and keep an eye on. That's going to become, I think, a much bigger deal as things move along.
Yeah. Oleg burning his blackmail.
Yes, realizing that he's off the hook, so that's nice. And whether or not he thinks that Stan's responsible for getting him into it and not out, where it's actually vice versa. But
do you there seemed to be a bit of remorse when how with Oleg that he almost wanted to talk to the American agents.
Sure.
Like he kept going and he waited, and just like the look on him, because he's been so silent during this whole process with the food distribution.
Right.
It's like he's almost wanting an out, and there was like a sense of like disappointment.
Well, again, we talk about the distance from the Soviet government. He's soaking in it, and he's seeing firsthand like, oh, really, we're gonna exploit the sun in Afghanistan. We're gonna do this, he is clearly disillusioned. Yeah, you're right. I think he would have, almost sort of welcomed the chance to like be a double agent, eventually maybe like defect or something.
Exactly.
But it's like, nope. All right, well, I guess we're in then.
Remember when he was first introduced, he was like the playboy son who just wanted to drive fast cars and live that American life.
Right.
And it's amazing. I love watching Oleg's growth. He's become like, between him and Gabriel, I think they're my favorite characters on this
Interesting.
show.
Well, I love me some Claudia.
Claudia,
and I guess if Gabriel's leaving, Claudia becomes their handler again. Is that the deal? I mean,
I know.
We're the Millers got canceled, so that anything can happen.
Yeah.
I'm trying to if there's anything else from this episode that
Paige meeting Gabriel was a big.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And I did peek at these scenes from next week, and that's an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, and again, it circles back to that thing from a couple of seasons ago where they were actively trying to get them to recruit Paige, and they balked at the idea. And so I think you had suggested at some point, was this just a back end? Like, did everything that happened, like, were they just being manipulated to make this happen? So maybe even Gabriel's announced departure is just a way to like make maybe not, but that might be stretching it.
But I think that's going to change things.
Yeah.
I think he might see something new with Paige.
Sure.
And I think as these characters grow and America and Russian relations grow, especially we're looking at 84 now, going into 85, we're going to start seeing a lot more of that questioning of the mission. Can we do something better than what we're tasked with? Because at the end of the day, with the exception, I feel like, well, even though Philip proved that a couple episodes ago, they still want what's best for the citizens of Russia. But I think that in that realization that the government isn't all that it's cracked up to be, and I think once because Gorbachev he's not in power.
I say, we're still in like the Andropov and Chernenko era, but once Gorbachev comes in and like Glasnost and all that stuff is happening, and Perestroika, anything's. I mean, and again, I think that's where this is lead. Like that's why they're ending next season. Like once that era starts, their stuff wraps up in a way. And
I hope we at least get to see that transition, because I grew up with the Gorbachev era. That's why I remember. So I'm really curious to see how they tackle that.
Yeah, and again, and going back to Henry real quick, I mean, I think the other thing that the difference between him and Paige is not only does he feel, distanced from the parents, which he should.
Yeah.
The way they portray, like, who knew? Like they're just there. They never ask the follow-up question with him. They're like, okay, great,
like,
whatever.
I'm screaming at the TV. I'm like, just go talk.
Could you pay him a little attention, please? But also, Paige, even her way of rebelling against them was to do the religion thing, but she rebelled in a very distinctly lefty, no nukes religious way. It's not like she became a Southern Baptist, So that was something that was something that they could work with. But if Henry is just going to be like straight up Reagan youth and chummy with Stan, then it's anybody's guess.
Well, and I just want to say, because of like American Star again and everything going on, I've been like deeply interested in Russian-American relations, especially during the Cold War era. And today, Slate put out a really fascinating piece about an incident in November of '83 where there were these war games conducted that actually almost brought us to the brink of nuclear war. And this it only became declassified in 2015. And so I can't remember the name of the article because I was reading in the back of the Uber today, but I highly recommend looking at it because I didn't realize like these war games that we practice like put Russia on such high alert, and for Reagan, it made him realize, wow, this is how defensive they are. This is those like lengths they're willing to go to. Yeah. And it was amazing. So we
don't have to have a Cuban Missile Crisis. It can be something as relatively innocuous as this. Yeah.
So yeah, it was a really good piece to read, and I'm really fascinated now.
I'll check it out. All right, we'll be back with more Americans next week. Thanks for watching.
Bye.